The latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A82 at King's House Hotel, the southbound carriageway is restricted after a collision. On the M5 southbound between Junction 19 and Junction 20 in North Somerset, an accident has closed one of 3 lanes, causing delays of around 30 minutes. On the A27 eastbound in East Sussex between the A26 south and the A2270, a crash is causing lane closures. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton or Rugby, plus disruption between Coventry and Birmingham New Street, while Cross Country reports engineering work in the Cambridge area and disruption between Coventry and Birmingham New Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Hope you're well. Welcome to Farage with me, Ben Leo. On tonight's show, a new poll shows the number of people who believe Britishness is something you're born with has almost doubled in 2 years. What's behind the astonishing rise, and what does it suggest about the way our politics going? And maybe, more pertinent than all, what does it mean to be British anyway? Elsewhere, a police chief has suggested that asylum seekers should be required to wear electronic tags in an effort to stop crime. However, no surprises, I guess, the Home Office have already dismissed the idea as it would breach migrants' human rights. We'll debate that very shortly. And campaigners are calling for a new bank holiday in 2027 to celebrate England's 1100th birthday. They say it's a way to reclaim patriotism. But bright idea from my end, shouldn't we just give the bank holiday to St George's Day instead? And British foreign aid has been used to fund a sex bot in Kenya, including giving tips to Kenyans on how to best enjoy fun between the sheets. We forked out £47 million for the project, which, excuse the pun, has been a complete flop. All that and more to come, but first, let's get your news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed, Ben. Good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock in the GB newsroom. Eurostar services between the UK and Europe have now partially resumed after a power outage caused severe disruption earlier. It resulted in cancellations and left thousands of passengers stranded. Multiple services are now boarding and more trains have been scheduled for later because the Channel Tunnel has partially reopened, although Eurostar has urged passengers to postpone their journeys anyway and says trains that do run will be severely delayed and there could be last-minute cancellations. There was also long waits for Le Shuttle, which carries road vehicles and passengers from Folkestone to Calais, and it had a knock-on effect for those queuing to board ferries at the port of Dover as well. A man's been arrested after 5 people were assaulted in a hospital in Merseyside with what's thought to have been a crowbar. Officers were called to Newton Community Hospital in St Helens just after midday. When trouble broke out, it's understood the man was denied an appointment. Police say the suspect is a 20-year-old originally from Afghanistan. Well, the victims of the assault were treated by paramedics at the hospital for injuries which were not life-threatening. British counter-terrorism police are assessing historical social media posts by the British-Egyptian activist Alaa Abdel Fattah, in which he called for Zionists to be killed. The Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says due diligence procedures were inadequate and has launched a review into serious information failures in his case. Successive governments worked to secure his release. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick says there should be a full investigation.
In the Home Office and the Foreign Office were either oblivious to this or, worse, knew about it and chose to conceal it because it didn't fit their agenda. And politician after politician, frankly, of all political parties, queued up to laud this character, to be photographed with members of his family, to join the campaign alongside all of these celebrities who got on board as well. This has been a massive failure by the British state and by many people in politics. They should all be ashamed of themselves for their failure to do the most basic due diligence into this man.
West Midlands Police has apologised to MPs for what they've described as confusion over the ban on Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters. It comes after they suggested members of the Jewish community in Birmingham express support for a ban on supporters of the Israeli team attending a match against Aston Villa, but they now say there was no documented feedback to support that view. Birmingham City Council, meanwhile, says it plans to commission an independent review into the decision, which was initially taken over security fears. And Russia says it's deployed nuclear-capable missiles into active service in Belarus. Vladimir Putin claims the Oreshnik weapons can't be intercepted by air defences because they travel at more than 10 times the speed of sound. Belarus, an ally of Russia, also shares a border with NATO countries, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. And it looks like we'll be welcoming in the new year with snow, ice and colder weather. The Met Office has issued a number of warnings for the coming days as Arctic air is set to grip the country. It's likely to initially affect northern Scotland but could spread to Northern Ireland, England and Wales by the end of the week. The cold spell likely to last for more than a week. There's your headlines. I'll have more for you at 8 o'clock.
Hello, good evening. Hope you're well. Thanks for your company. I'm Ben Leo, covering for Nigel Farage this week. Before we start the show, I'd like to bring you a quick update on the El Fattah case. New tweets have emerged from his sister. She's called Mona Seif, which appeared to praise the October 7th attackers some years ago. She tweeted on the morning of the attacks in 2023, quote, something out of a sci-fi movie. And if you're looking on television now, you can see pictures of the paragliders, the Hamas paragliders, captioned in her tweet. She went on to write, I guess it takes a special kind of imagination to find new ways of resisting an extremely advanced occupation army whose war crimes are constantly justified and endorsed by some of the most powerful governments. She also tweeted, once again, the discrepancy between many of those celebrating Ukrainian resistance but now condemn Palestinian resistance speaks loudly of their hypocrisy. You're either with the people's right to resist an army occupation or not. Mona Seif seems to have responded to the controversy today by saying, quote, so now silly bantering, yes, bantering, between me and friends saying I will kill you over silly joking tweets are now circulating to claim I'm a violent person. Are you out of your minds? GBNews has contacted Mona Seif for a comment and, of course, we're yet to receive a response, but we'll bring you the latest on the story as we get it. And, by the way, this whole Fattah case brings us on to our next topic. It's very pertinent, which is the number of people who believe Britishness is something you're born with has almost doubled in just 2 years. That's according to new research that warns of a rising tide of ethno-nationalism in Britain. This morning, our South of England reporter Isabel Fekulak asked the good people of Gosport if they think you have to be born in Britain to be British. Here's what they had to say.
Yeah, if you're born somewhere else, if you're born in France, you're French. If you're born in England, you're English. That's it.
And what do you think makes a person truly British then?
They've got to have a good sense of humour.
I think that they can be truly British and come from anywhere as long as they are happy to live here with everyone else in peace.
But wherever you're born, that is your place of birth. And to be a truly
British person, I think you need to be born in this country and not come from abroad.
No, because there's people who come from outside this country and who aren't born in this country who give good to society in this country. And I think that to say that people who aren't born in this country aren't British is missing out on people who contribute fundamentally to different parts of this country, in both economically and culturally.
So the majority of the public still believe being British is indeed rooted in shared values. But if that's the case, what are those values? We hear it banded around so frequently in recent years, British values. I don't know what they are anymore. And also, what does make us British? Well, I'm joined now by the historian and senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisserly. Philip, good evening. Great to see you. Thanks for your company. How are you? Happy New Year.
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm a bit croaky because I'm recovering from laryngitis, so I apologise for that in advance. But I'm okay. I hope you're well too.
That's okay. I was going to suggest you've been boozing too much over Christmas, but I'll let you off. What do you make of this this conversation, Philip? What does it mean to be British, and also what are British values these days?
Yeah, it's a really good one, isn't it? I'm like you, Ben. I'm not quite sure I know anymore because I think it's been discussed to death, and the more we discuss it, the more obfuscation happens. I think you have to understand and participate in British culture. But I say that, then you've got to define what British culture is, and that's really quite difficult because it's so complex, layered and historical. I think you've got to understand history as well. You've got to understand British history and be honest about British history as well. I think that's really important. So part of the problem we have in education, part of the problem we have in the institutions and the media is a dishonest rendering of history. So if you are, genuinely British and you feel like you are part of this culture and this country, then you want to be honest about it as well. And you have to understand what makes Britain work. And I'm not talking about these vague British values, whatever the hell they are. I'm talking about, understanding democracy, understanding the law, understanding the monarchy, understanding the constitutional monarchy and how all of that kind of stuff works. I'm not talking in detail, but I'm talking generally. In other words, participating in Britain, being British involves it's an active thing, it isn't a passive thing.
Is there a difference between being British and being English or being Scottish? Because I guess you wouldn't go to Japan and say, I'm Japanese because I participate in, I don't know, sumo and sushi.
Yeah, I think there is. I think Englishness is a very distinct thing, and Scottish people would say Scottishness is a very distinct thing, and so on and so forth. I'm English. I see myself very much as English rather than British, primarily, and my heritage, my history is very much rooted in place and class as well, actually. So I was born and brought up in Manchester. I'm from a working class background, and that's very much part of who I am, as much as what I do for a living, as much as what I indulge in culturally and all the rest of it. So again, it's a complex thing. When people say, oh, well, what is British culture then? And they think that's a got you. If they're expecting a very simple, trite response, they're really not going to get one, because British culture is, as I say, very complex, layered, and in some ways contradictory.
Does any other nation have this kind of debate about their own identity? I can't think of, as I said, Japan, you go to America, you know who Americans are. Well, maybe Americans actually are quite similar to us. Yeah. They have such an influx of migration. Are we the only nation in the world, the only people in the world who have such a conundrum about our own identity?
I think we're really up there, and I think we're having the stupidest conversation at the moment. This and that is a real shame, and that's happened very, very quickly. Now there are reasons for that. There's our history. We're talking about reparations for slavery. We were the country that abolished slavery at great personal and economic cost. We just finished paying for that. We were the country, and the West generally were the only people to morally object to slavery, and yet we're being punished for that historically. So yeah, I think we're having these conversations, and I don't think they're sensible conversations, but bearing in mind we've had to endure 30 years, 3+ decades of mass immigration. We have asymmetric multiculturalism, which takes every other culture and celebrates it and demonizes our own culture. So in lots of ways you can see how people are, 1, angry, 2, fed up, and 3, fearful about what's happening in this country. And I think that's a very potent and dangerous combination. So we really need to take seriously what our identity is. And I think the key thing is we need to be proud of being English or British or whatever you want to call yourself, because we have historically generally been a force for good in the world, and we still are a force for good in the world.
Yeah, well said, Philip. Great to hear from you. I was going to ask you what you thought the reasoning behind the surge in these kind of views are, but you said it yourself. It's uncontrolled mass migration, and it's a pendulum, isn't it? With any topic, any issue, the pendulum goes too far one way and you get a knee-jerk reaction the other way. Philip, I'll leave you to enjoy your new year. Hope you get better soon, and, catch up in 2026.
Great to see you.
Thanks, Philip. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening, the former Conservative MP and Minister Sir Ranil Jayawardena, and the journalist and former Press Secretary to Paddy Ashdown, Joe Phillips. Good evening to you both.
Hi, Ben.
Happy
nice
New
to
Year.
see you here
nice
in this
to
country.
See you. I'm back in Blighty.
Yeah.
I'm back in my hometown. Joe, start with you, ladies first. This whole conversation, as Philip rightly said, has come off the back of years of mass migration, which has got people thinking, well, what the hell is this anymore? What are we doing here? Who are we?
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there has always been a conversation about Englishness, and I think the English, as opposed to the Scottish, Welsh and Irish, have been much more coy about celebrating what it is to be English, you know, whether that's St George's Day or Shakespeare's birthday. So I think there's that. I think this survey, I mean, there were a couple of things that I thought Philip said that were really interesting, and one is the participatory nature. And the most uplifting part of this survey, actually, is when people were asked what made a good British citizen, the most popular answers were obeying the law, 64%, raising children to be kind and working hard. Just 8% said it involved sticking up for British-born people above other groups, and 3% said it involved having white skin. Because the problem with this, Ben, is if you go down this path of ethno-nationalism, as it's called, you end up talking about the colour of people's skin. And if you say, well, people have got to be born in this country, how far back do you go? You know, we're sitting here, you and I don't have this problem. I mean, Ranil may have had a different experience, but, you know, we don't see what it is like. So Kemi Badenoch, for instance, has spoken about the comments and the abuse that she has got, you know, being born to Nigerian parents. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, you know, previous Home Secretary Suella Braverman, Rishi Sunak, you know, previous Prime Minister.
Mo Farah. So, I mean, that gets me thinking then, Ranil. So, I mean, are the English not entitled to their own ethnic culture?
Well, so I think it's really important to actually separate Englishness and Britishness. Right. And this is a study about British nationality, and the sense that you can't be British if you're not born here is rising as the headline. And I think there is something to be said for the sense that, you know, actually it's about having a stake in this society, it's about really loving this country, it's wanting to integrate with this country. And I think that's perhaps where people are channeling their current tension. And, you know, actually what we ought to do is deal with why these tensions are arising. And as Philip said, you know, it's because of the huge increase in migration. You know, my father's generation, people who came here, it was a very small amount every year.
So just remind us, what's your background?
So my father's Sri Lankan. Yeah. I'm born here. Right. But, you know, he came here in the 70s. And it was a very small number of people each year compared to what we have now.
And does he consider himself British now, your father?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. He's a British citizen. He's integrated.
But so British citizenship, you've got a passport, you've got a certificate saying you've got a citizenship, fine. Does he feel British? Does he tell his friends, I'm British?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You know, he'll always, of course, have Sri Lankan heritage, as I will. But the point is that he has integrated himself in this country. And that's, I think, where people are feeling real angst right now, that there are ghettos in some parts of this country where communities have chosen to base themselves and not integrate with people who have been living in that town, that city, for many generations. And I think it's compounded by challenges in housing, compounded by challenges in the health service. These are the challenges that we need to deal with. And I would just observe, though, that if we were to go down this route, people like Boris Johnson, who have
Prince
done
Philip.
Many of, indeed,
born in Corfu.
Many people who GBNews viewers would say these are great people, have done great things. They wouldn't be allowed to consider themselves British, and I'm sure GBNews viewers would disagree.
This whole thing about integration, and I do take your point, but it is inevitable that somebody coming coming here, you know, think of the Scottish people who, a lot of whom have ended up in Scotland, you know, so they migrate together, they know somebody, somebody's cousin, you know, helps you set up a restaurant or whatever the business is you're doing. That is inevitable, that you're going to go where you might know somebody, however that
But then you need to keep the numbers lower.
Well, you keep the numbers lower, but also, if we want people to integrate, it is also up to us to be a little bit more encouraging, because those St George's flags, Union flags, are quite distressing to a number...
Oh, Joe. Joe, come on. That is the flag of our nation. If people have got a problem with the St George's flag, they can do one, quite frankly. Sorry to be blunt. I know it's not very festive spirited, but... you come to this country, you enjoy the perks and the rule of law and democracy and the right to vote.
They weren't flying 2 years ago, Ben. They weren't flying 10 years ago.
Well, maybe because people are a bit miffed off with our identity being hijacked. Maybe what's wrong with that?
Which people? The people who call themselves patriots?
No, but
I mean, I just think it's a cheap way of calling yourself a patriot.
Shouldn't we have more flags flying full stop, though? I mean, that's actually a bigger question.
That's a different argument.
The Americans fly the flag with pride in their front gardens, on streets across their country.
That's a different argument. If we were doing it all the time, fair enough, but it has come out of a nasty group of people who are trying to send a message.
What if I told you now I'd flown a St George's flag at my home down in Sussex? Would you consider me nasty?
I would be surprised
and
ask you why.
That's insane.
Why?
Why?
Why are you flying the flag?
Because as Philip said, as Renelle has alluded to, because we've had uncontrolled population explosion over the past 20 years of 10 million plus people. There's big questions and conversations about what it means to be British, what it means to be English, Scottish, Welsh, who are we as a people? And I guess people feel hijacked and betrayed by their own government that their country's being sold down the river. We're now spending £10 billion a year on universal credit and welfare bills for foreign nationals.
So you're using the flag, you're admitting that you're using the flag as a sort of a sign to people saying, you're not welcome, I don't want you.
No, I never pride in one's country.
Pride in one's country, and one of the things that Britain is renowned for around the world is tolerance and fairness. I mean,
And we are the most tolerant country in the world, let me tell you, and we get abused for it. Britain is the most tolerant, hospitable country in the world, and yet we're called racist day in, day out.
But Ben, let me just ask you, because now you're over the pond in Washington, which is, I mean, it's not really a sort of, it's a microcosm of America, but because it's a very specific place. But one of the things that I thought was interesting, that Philip sort of alluded to, if you go abroad anywhere, as soon as people hear you speaking, they get Britishness, you know, and they'll say to you, I love your accent or whatever.
It's a great icebreaker.
But what they don't get, of course, and it's that old saying, it's, you know, a common language divided by, and the misunderstandings, you know, their idea of a pocketbook is a handbag or a purse. Yeah. You know, they go horseback riding, which we would just think is ridiculous because you can only go horseback riding.
Yeah.
You know. So there's all of those sort of things, you know, like pants and butts and stuff. So there's a whole language. But I do think, you know, perhaps people appreciate us more when we're abroad, that they get our rather quirky sense of humour.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, so many people across the world are now looking at Britain in dismay. They're saying, you know, what has happened to London, once the greatest city in the world, and they see the crime rates, they see the sense that, that people can't walk safely on the streets.
You've been up today with your family to go to the Science Museum for free.
Do you know what we just had? Coming out of Paddington Station, there was a person who was swearing loudly in the street to the person next to them.
That was me, sir. I couldn't find my
I'm sorry, Ben. It's outrageous.
But that's because you couldn't get an Emirates ticket. That's why.
The point is that that sort of behaviour in front of young children is unwelcoming. This is at what, 6 o'clock in the evening?
But you get that anywhere.
That shouldn't be.
I'm sorry,
Joe. I will say, many Americans. I've done 4 months there. I've come back temporarily, especially the American government, the administration at the moment. But many Americans are looking at Britain at the moment, and I don't want to sit here and put Britain down because we're great, but we've lost our mojo, you know, to put it conservatively. They think what's happening here is a little bit of a joke. Not least, look at this week with, what's his name, El Fattah. You know, an Egyptian random wrong'un who's been banged up in Egypt in jail for social media posts, given a spurious British citizenship, like Willy Wonka's confetti. Here you are, he's British, you're now a Brit.
You know,
he comes to the UK and he's a massive racist anti-Semite. So,
but, you know, there are an awful lot of people in this country who think the way America is going is absolutely appalling. So, you know,
Lowest murder rate in 25 years, 4.3% GDP, 2 million illegals kicked out. I mean, it looks pretty good to me.
And a man who has got no understanding of democracy and the civil institutions that uphold democracy.
Well, the Dems just won. I mean, they just won New York. They won Virginia and some other governor races a few weeks ago. So, I mean...
And banning people? These are the people who tell us about free speech, but they're banning people.
Well, why not? If you've got anti-Semites roaming around college campuses in America who are quite clearly against American values and the way America wants to step forward in the world, why shouldn't they be kicked out?
Because they're telling us about free speech.
I mean, sounds good to me. They can have their free speech abroad. If they want to, as I said, march around college campuses calling for the death of Zionists and Jews, they can do that back in the Middle East.
It comes back to what, actually, the people have said in this study. They want people to live by British values, obey the law. That sort of behaviour is not allowed.
But I would like British people to do that as well. It is not just people with different coloured skin. I would like to see...
What about skin colour?
Other people, you know, who claim to be such great patriots also behave properly.
Okay. Right, great debate. gbnews.com/yoursay. Let us know your thoughts on that. Somebody had said, I've lost the name, so apologies, but somebody said, Ben, I was born in a taxi, but that doesn't make me a taxi. And actually, I was of the mind that if you weren't born here, then you're not necessarily British. But then I heard earlier today, and I'm happy to, you know, change my thinking. I'm open to different train of thoughts. Prince Philip, born in Corfu. Boris Johnson, born in New York. So are we saying that they're not British? Well, of course they're. Right, let's move on. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, of course, and you can join us. You can bring New Year's in style 2026 into your front room right here on GB News because, there we are on the screen now. You can join me, Miriam Cates, Alex Armstrong, Bev Turner and Darren Grimes as we bring you full coverage from New Year's Eve from around the UK and indeed the world tomorrow night. We'll be looking back at the best moments of 2025. I'll tell you, Bev and I had lots of fun in America since September, so lots of stories and whatever else to share with you then. And also what to expect ahead in 2026. I've got a feeling, my spidey senses are tingling, 2026 is going to be a great year for a lot of people. Right, that's New Year's Eve Live tomorrow night from 10 p.m. here on GB News. Up next on Farage, a police and crime commissioner has suggested tagging asylum seekers as a way of deterring crime. Is that a sensible idea? Or, as the Home Office says, does it strip migrants of their so-called human rights? Don't go anywhere. Back in a tick.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless, and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Farage. Now, the asylum seeker row is heating up again as Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner Katie Bourne has urged the government to consider tagging men arriving in the UK illegally, saying it could give them more freedom to work and travel, while also reassuring worried communities. I guess her argument is it would prevent crime, or at least deter crime. The call comes as plans emerge to house more than 500 asylum seekers at a Crowborough Army training camp. That's just down the road from me in Sussex, despite fierce local protests. Critics warn the plan would be cruel and unnecessary, saying tagging migrants who haven't committed a crime crosses a line, including, by the way, panel, welcome back, Joe and Ranil, the Home Office, who have said it would strip them of their human rights, Ranil. I mean, it seems... Well, do you know what? For me, let me just give you my take first. Tagging them isn't going far enough. They should be detained in detention centres and not allowed to roam the streets of Britain.
Thank you. That's exactly what I thought. Reading this. You know, look, I've got a lot of time for Katie Bourne. I think she's a brilliant lady who's done great stuff as Police and Crime Commissioner for Sussex, and I hope she will become the mayor when those delayed, those cancelled elections finally happen. But the point is that actually this is passing the problem to communities. People have genuine concerns about illegal immigrants right now committing crimes across this country, and that's why people want them in detention centres. The fact that they are tagged and that we know where they might be committing those crimes is too late for the victims of those crimes.
But Ranil, what about their human rights?
No.
Their human rights.
I'm afraid if people come here illegally, in fact, as the government has now proven, it is entirely possible to deport them immediately, and if they're choosing not to deport them immediately, then in holding centres they should be.
Katie Bourne was on, I think she was on GB News a bit earlier, and she was saying, look, of course, the best method of dealing with this is not to allow them in the country in the first place, deal with the small boats crisis. But she said until that happens, tag them. Electronic tags, as we do with criminals, and we know at least where they are, they're GPS tracked, and it would hopefully deter crime. Good idea?
Well, I mean, it depends who's operating it, because if it's the same people that are operating release from prison, I wouldn't hold out a lot of hope that you'd find any of them. I mean, a lot of these things... you're laughing, Ronald, but it is...
No, that's a good point, yeah.
Very true.
You know, who's going to operate it? Some dreadful company with a dodgy thing. I mean, in theory, it sounds quite sensible if you either take the view that while people are sitting waiting for asylum, they should be able to work, so therefore they're not a drain. Now, I know Ranil doesn't agree with me, but...
Do you think they should be able to work?
Under your government, Ranil, the last government, the rate of people stuck in asylum limbo went absolutely through the roof, and this government is tackling it, albeit slowly, because we know there are people coming on the boats, but that's not the only way they come here. But if you allowed people to work and work legally instead of, you know, under the counter, round the back...
Allowing people to work will draw an even greater pull factor. It will draw even more people to make that perilous journey across the Channel. And actually, you know, the last government did have a plan to actually deter people. That's what we should be doing, deterring people in the first place. I agree with you, Ben. It's actually about deterring people from making that journey, and that means making sure that once they are here, if they've come here illegally, they're deported immediately or processed offshore, which was the plan before.
You've still got to process people. You've still got to hold them somewhere.
No. The Rwanda scheme meant that you deport people immediately, be processed offshore.
Did it?
Well, we weren't given a chance to do that.
Well, no.
And I hope that we'll have a chance again in the future.
Why did your man call an election then?
I know.
Why did he do that?
I regret that every single day.
Inflation was coming down. Inflation was coming down. The energy bill was coming down. The Bank of England was cutting interest rates. They could have waited until... I mean, it's no point talking about it now.
It will go down as one of the great errors. But the principle remains that actually giving people an inch and they will take a mile. We've seen that people have paid thousands of pounds to get here. Once they've got a tag, what's to say they don't try and get rid of those tags, and then they become totally uncontrolled somewhere in the country?
That does happen.
But they're already doing that. People who are, I mean,
No, that's why they should be in holding centres.
Well, what
detained.
about the people, and we've talked about this before ad infinitum, ad nauseum even, you know, a few years ago it was people climbing out of the back of lorries. Now, you know, there's been a huge...
And then we clamped down on that.
Yeah, huge... Well, actually, it wasn't us, it was the French around Calais.
Well, and our authorities work with them to do that.
So, sorry, Ben.
No, go on.
No, but what you saw was people getting out of the back of trucks and just disappearing.
Yeah.
You know, never to be seen again and never to appear. And actually, you know what happens? People come and they will get a job, a sort of under-the-counter, cash in hand for far less than the minimum wage, propping up the shadow economy.
So where do you want these people? Where can these people work then, Joe? If you want these migrants to work, in which industries? Care homes?
Well,
Zach Polanski wants care homes and the NHS. He wants strange men from faraway lands. We don't know who they are, where they're from, working in hospitals, looking after our parents and grandparents.
Zach Polanski also said, rather dismissively, that it was not a job that he would do.
Wiping backsides, yeah.
He thought it was beneath him.
So where do you want these people to work?
Well, I'm not saying whether I want them to work, but we've brought in the Boris wave since we were talking about
No, that's a
Boris
different point. That's a
no,
different
it's
point.
not. We've
asylum seekers.
We've
this
had
is about
to
asylum
bring
seekers.
in an enormous number of people.
Yeah, but where do you want asylum seekers to work?
To fill the gaps in social care. There are many,
I think
many
that's
gaps
so
in social
dangerous.
care.
You don't know who these people are.
You don't know
where they're from. They throw their passports and their phones into the channel.
I'm not saying...
you don't know who... And you want them to work with our vulnerable and elderly.
That's not what I'm saying. The point I'm making is that we have brought in a load of people legally. With their families that we now think, oh, my goodness me, we've suddenly got this Boris wave of people, and they have come in to fill the gap. Reform-led Kent County Council has applied for an extension of visas because they're so short of...
But we're talking about small boat migrants, illegal migrants.
You're talking not necessarily about small boats, you're talking about people who have come here illegally because there are no legal routes for them.
So where should those people work?
So what I'm saying is that, well, where they're working at the moment, they're working in restaurants, they're working in cafes, they're working in barbershops, they're working in... You know, if you're going to have your car cleaned or have your nails done, ask about the person who's doing it, because you are supporting that dodgy shadow economy.
Well, I think this is the biggest argument against digital ID cards then, because it's supposedly these ID cards that will stop people working illegally, but they're already doing it in all these places, as suggests Joe. But I think the point more broadly, let's be really clear. The legal migration is one thing, and in fact, net migration has been going down, and many of the people who did come under Boris and post-COVID are now going back to their original countries of residence. This is a very discrete point about asylum seekers, and I have grave concerns. Given the rates of crime that we've seen in the country, including particularly, it seems, from Afghan nationals committing crimes across this country, that they should be allowed out of detention centres, whether they have tags or not, because that's putting particularly women and girls at risk.
Well, then you're basically detention, as opposed to a holding centre.
Like a normal common sense thinking country.
Which is a prison, and then you need to staff it. But given that we can't staff our own prisons for people who have been found guilty of something and sentenced, I don't hold out a lot of hope for operating a detention centre like a prison.
We erected 7 Nightingale hospitals during COVID at the click of a finger, which in the end weren't even used. We can do it. By the way, all this stuff, I mean, this is a great idea from Katie Bourne. However, all this one in, one out nonsense, should we give some money to the French? Should they be allowed to work? Should they be detained? It's all nonsense. It's all theatre. Stop the boats coming in the first place. And do you know what? I argue all this stuff is a distraction about the key problem itself, which is stop the boats at source. Do not allow them to come in the first place. We're so bogged down in this debate about, should they be allowed in town? How much money on Aspen cards should we give them each week? Should they be allowed to work? Nonsense. Absolute BS. Just stop the boats.
And President Trump has actually been doing exactly that in clamping down on illegal migration, hasn't he?
I went down to the southern border in Arizona. I spoke to all the law enforcement down there. I said, what is the key difference? By the way, illegal migration in the United States, zero. Zero releases.
Yeah, and people being picked up on the streets by
And I went out with them. I went out with ICE in Florida.
It's an absolute disgrace in a democratic
What's the biggest thing that local people have seen?
He said, so the law enforcement in Arizona said they are now allowed to do their jobs, akin to Border Force being allowed to intercept boats in the Channel and say, no, you're not coming any further. Use the military if need be, use the Navy. And not only has President Trump stopped illegal migration, zero. They've got rid of 2.4 million illegals who have broken into the country, 600,000 forcibly removed.
Rounding people up on the streets, in front of their kids, in front of their colleagues, people who've been there for years, and taking them away in a way that is so abhorrent.
Joe, I went out with ICE in Florida. We did a raid looking for a Guatemalan cocaine smuggler, international coke dealer. I was with them from 2 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. We pulled over 3 cars. They found 9 illegals on their travels, so straight to an immigration judge, all kicked out. And later on, when I left them, they found the cocaine guy. And that's just in one morning. These people shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. They broke into the country.
But they're also taking people who have been in the country for a long time, who have got the right to stay in the country.
Well, not if they broke into the country. There was one guy, I will admit, there was one guy I spoke to through the border wall in Mexico. He'd been in Utah for 22 years. He'd had kids in the United States. He broke in illegally. He smuggled himself in. But he'd been in the US for 22 years. ICE pulled him over and kicked him out. His wife and kids were allowed to stay in Utah. Do you think that sounds fair, by the way, Ronald?
I'm afraid if you break into a country, so if you come here illegally... No, I'm sorry. If you don't have a legal right to come to a country, then you're not only doing a disservice to the country itself, but you're also harming all of those people who go through the right channels, who paid the visa fees to come here illegally.
Last word, very quickly.
It's
desperately unfair.
Got a family and you're separating a family.
Don't come to a country illegally.
Right, up next on Farage, should there be a new bank holiday to celebrate England's first king? Do you know who England's first king was? I'll be joined by leading historian Martin Whittock after the break. You're watching GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst there's plenty of dry and bright weather across the UK at the moment, it's a different story around southern Europe. There's some rain sweeping its way towards Madeira and towards the Canary Islands through the next couple of days. It's wet across southern parts of Spain and northern Morocco. Some thundery rain likely again as we go through later this week. And further east, also some outbreaks of rain affecting parts of Greece and towards Cyprus. And some of these could be heavy and thundery at times. More changeable weather to come as we head into the new year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Now, as we head into the last day of 2025, there's going to be a lot of dry, a lot of clear weather around, but it is also going to be cold with a harsh frost for many of us as well. That's because high pressure firmly in control across much of the country. I say much of the country because there is a front pushing into Orkney and Shetland, bringing blustery winds and also a few outbreaks of showery rain here. Elsewhere, a dry night for most of us, apart from 1 or 2 showers across some eastern, southeastern parts of England, and lots of clear sky. With that clear sky, temperatures plummeting, widely dropping a bit below freezing. In fact, in some places, could get as low as -7, -8 Celsius, so a harsh frost here. Also watch out for some fog, some freezing fog perhaps across some southern parts, which could take a little bit of time to clear as we go through New Year's Eve. Otherwise, it's looking largely fine and bright for many places, particularly towards the south, but later on tomorrow, we are going to see a bit more cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Scotland. It is going to be a chilly day with temperatures again a little bit below average for the time of year. Now, as we head through the evening tomorrow, and we're going to continue to see more cloud, more showery outbreaks of mostly rain pushing their way across parts of Scotland. As we head towards midnight itself, well, that's when those showers are going to become increasingly frequent, perhaps heavier. We're going to see the winds strengthening as well, and more likely to see some sleet and snow mixed in with them, particularly across northern parts of Scotland and over higher ground. Also, a chance of some of that showery rain pushing into parts of Northern Ireland and the far north of England, but further south, the central southern parts of England and Wales, it's staying dry. Clearer skies towards the south, allowing again for a frost and also some fog patches in a few places. As we go through the beginning of the new year, well, it is going to turn increasingly cold and a risk of snow pushing its way southwards. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Farage with me, Ben Leo. Right, Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey, a very high-quality guy, he's backed plans to bring in a new bank holiday to celebrate England's first king. England unified under King Athelstan in 927 AD, just a couple of years ago, 927 AD, which means England will be celebrating its 1100th birthday in 2027. Ed Davey insists the bank holiday would be a good way to reclaim patriotism, saying this is the evidence of how long we go back in our proud history, and I think true patriots would want that bank holiday. So should we have a bank holiday to celebrate England's 1100th birthday? And if we're going to have bank holidays to celebrate England, why not just do St George's Day instead? Well, joining me now is the historian Martin Whittock. Martin, good evening. Thanks for your company. What do you make of Sir Ed Davey's idea, Martin?
Well, I'm a big fan of Athelstan. I'm a paid-up member of the Athelstan fan club, if you see what I mean.
Just the man.
He's the most famous king that no one's ever heard of. He was the grandson of Alfred the Great. He succeeded his own father, Edward the Elder, in 924, was crowned in 925, died in 939. But in that short reign, he died when he was just 45. He basically extended West Saxon control, which, when he became king, was just south of the Thames and the West Midlands, right across the Midlands. That had been done also by his feisty aunt, Ethelfled, Lady of the Mercians. He'd been raised in her court. He took that power base right into Northumbria, conquered the Viking kingdom of York, and basically made the first united Kingdom of England. Took himself the title King of England, also the title, quite a grand one this, King of the whole of Britain, because in 927 rulers of the Welsh and the Scots accepted him as their overlord, and he's the very first king that we've actually got portraits of with a crown, and there actually is a document dating from his reign in Corpus Christi Library in Cambridge, showing him there giving a gift to St Cuthbert, who'd been dead for a couple of hundred years, matter of interest, in the north, wearing his crown. So in many ways, he's the person that we should say, he is the first king of a united England, multicultural kingdom, Angles, Saxons, people of Welsh descent, people who were the descendants of Vikings. And suddenly we have a kingdom that he would have called Engleland. He's the ruler of the Anglekin, of the Englisk, and we speak a version of that old English language today. Yeah, I'm a paid-up member of the Athelstan fan club, so I would like to see bank holiday celebrating this first King of England, yeah.
Martin, I love it. I love your enthusiasm and passion for Athelstan. He sounds like a great guy. Why is he sort of not, I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, why is he not very sort of well-known, or, I mean, why don't we have children being named after Athelstan? I mean, if I knew about him in such depth, I probably would have renamed my two sons.
Yeah, why did my parents call me Athelstan Whittock? Well, obviously I can't ask them now. He's overshadowed by his grandfather, Alfred the Great, burner of cakes in legend and all that sort of stuff. Amazing king himself. He's also overshadowed by the end of the 10th century. The Vikings come back again, and you've got Ethelred the Unready, and you've got things falling apart again, and then the Norman conquest in 1066. So in some ways, he's kind of overshadowed by what came before and what came afterwards. But he was a reformer of government. He was a one who called people representatives from right across his realm. He was a very holy king. He collected relics. He wanted to reform the church as well. He wanted to reform the legal system. He was concerned about crime and wanted to cut down on crime. But as I say, at Amont Bridge, the other people in England, or and across Britain accepted his overrulership. And then he faced this huge alliance against him and defeated them at the Battle of Brunanburh, the hugest battle that nobody's ever heard of, that we should have heard of alongside Hastings and the Battle of Bosworth.
Yeah.
Athelstan. Here at
Martin,
Athelstan.
I love it. I love it. Wait, is there an actual Athelstan fan club or supporters club that you run? What's the details for our viewers if they want to learn more?
Well, I must confess, it's more of a volunteer thing, really. No, there isn't an official one, but there should be. Maybe I should set him up. He's buried in Malmesbury Abbey, by the way. West Country guy, lives fairly close to where I live. You can visit his tomb in Malmesbury Abbey, but as yet, I don't actually know if there's a fan club. Maybe
nice part of the world.
There's a reason for that.
Lovely part of the world. Martin, thank you so much. Martin Wissock, Happy New Year to you. And, unfortunately, we're very pushed time. Run out very, very quickly. Why not just do St George's Day instead? 10 seconds.
A lot to be said for that, but actually, given the current rate of economic growth, we can't afford this. That's the great shame of what's going on right now.
Jo, really quickly.
I want to celebrate the centenary of women, universal suffrage, women getting the vote, which is in 2020.
OK, it's bank holiday for that. gbnews.com/your say. I say just do St George's Day instead. Why on earth, up next, why on earth has a British taxpayer money, your money, being used on a sex chatbot in Kenya? Yes, 47 million quid well spent. Back in just a sec.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to Farage. Now, British taxpayer money, your money at home, has been used, £41 million of it, in an aid programme for developing countries, including funding a sex chatbot in Kenya. If you don't know what it is, it's basically a pleasure-oriented robot, originally intended to encourage safe sex among young Kenyans, I think between 18 and 24. Although, that said, £41 million spent on this. There's been no evidence of increased use of contraception, and reviews have shown the app is very good at suggesting sexual activities couples can enjoy in bed, however. Renil and Joe here with me now. This is one of a litany panel of absolute waste.
Yeah.
Waste and dysfunction, £52 million of a road to nowhere through the Amazon, so on and so on. And, how do we stop this madness, Renil?
Well, it's such a shame, and it's indefensible, and I've got to be honest, I've got to say, yeah, you know, the Conservatives, as much as Labour, have had a hand in projects like this.
Was it pretty? So this was 2019.
Yeah.
This would have been Dominic Raab, I guess.
Yes, I remember him.
But you know, the point is that a lot of these decisions never actually see a minister's desk. A lot of these things happen at official level, and sometimes a minister will be asked to sign off a job lot just before the end of the budget year because the budget's got to be spent.
This came out of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Ideas to Impact, an aid programme, which was presumably cooked up by whoever was Foreign Secretary for 5 minutes.
The sad truth is often that's not the case.
But this was
often the Ideas to Impact programme or whatever other programme, these things will be initiated by officials. But I think there's a bigger problem here, which is that actually the British people would rather this money was spent here at home. You know, this is not a priority for taxpayers across this country. People who are struggling to feed their own families, to keep a roof over their head. That's not the right way to spend people's money. And, you know, if we are going to spend money around the world, why don't we do things that will genuinely be generationally important? If you talk about Kenya, why don't we protect endangered species in Africa? Why don't we provide them with military support for their rangers, which they can't afford? We don't need to be doing this.
Do we need, very quickly, Joe, what is the point, and again, this isn't a gotcha question, it's an honest question, what is the point of foreign aid at all?
Well, it helps people. The idea of it is that people are then able to help themselves, so you can do amazing things. OK,
But we've been giving millions to Africa for decades and decades, and I see no improvement.
Well,
what's going on there?
Have you been to Africa?
I have been to Madagascar, I've been to North Africa,
Have you spoken to people about the improvements that have been made and where things have helped? So I'll give you an example, a really simple example, and actually this came from George W. Bush, whose wife Laura went out to Africa because one of their daughters was there, and she came back and she said, hang on a minute, this is crazy, girls are missing school because they haven't got separate toilet blocks. They put them in, girls started going to school.
All right. I mean, that is great. That,
mosquito nets, but we are cutting our foreign aid so much.
OK, that's great, but I just mean material change.
We've got crumbling schools here in this country, and that's the challenge.
Sorry to squeeze you, we've got to move on. A Foreign Office spokesperson has said in a statement the current government has made clear that it's determined to deliver value for money for the taxpayer across the development budget. Right, up next is State of the Nation with Tom Hubbard. By the way, thank you, panel, for your time, and you viewers back home. I'll see you tomorrow night. Tom, what's up on the show?
Well, 900,000 social homes across the country are occupied by immigrants. Why so many and in so many expensive areas of the country? We'll dive into that. Also, £13 billion to be spent on Ed Miliband's Green Dream. Can we afford it with the economy in the doldrums? We'll have lots more, including Tony Blair's secret lair plans. All will be revealed. But before then, let's get an update on that weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Now, as we head into the last day of 2025, there's going to be a lot of dry, a lot of clear weather around, but it is also going to be cold with a harsh frost for many of us as well. That's because high pressure firmly in control across much of the country. I say much of the country because there is a front pushing into Orkney and Shetland, bringing blustery winds and also a few outbreaks of showery rain here. Elsewhere, a dry night for most of us, apart from one or two showers across some eastern, southeastern parts of England, and lots of clear sky. With that clear sky, temperatures plummeting, widely dropping a bit below freezing. In fact, in some places, could get as low as -7, -8 Celsius, so a harsh frost here. Also, watch out for some fog, some freezing fog perhaps across some southern parts, which could take a little bit of time to clear as we go through New Year's Eve. Otherwise, it's looking largely fine and bright for many places, particularly towards the south, but later on tomorrow, we we are going to see a bit more cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain pushing into parts of Scotland. It is going to be a chilly day with temperatures again a little bit below average for the time of year. Now, as we head through the evening tomorrow, and we're going to continue to see more cloud, more showery outbreaks of mostly rain pushing their way across parts of Scotland. As we head towards midnight itself, well, that's when those showers are going to become increasingly frequent, perhaps heavier. We're going to see the winds strengthening as well, and more likely to see some sleet and snow mixed in with them, particularly across northern parts of Scotland and over higher ground. Also, chance of some of that showery rain pushing into parts of Northern Ireland and the far north of England, but further south, the central southern parts of England and Wales, it's staying dry. Clearer skies towards the south, allowing again for a frost and also some fog patches in a few places. As we go through the beginning of the new year, well, it is going to turn increasingly cold and a risk of snow pushing its way southwards. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very good evening to you. You're watching State of the Nation on GB News. Tonight with me, Tom Harwood, standing in for Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Well, coming up on the programme. What does it mean to be British? The number of people who believe that you have to be born in this country to be truly British has almost doubled in just 2 years. Also this evening, Ed Miliband is planning to offer grants for solar panels and heat pumps worth up to £13 billion of your money in an attempt to create net zero bill homes. But can we afford it? And then, Figures from Migration Watch UK suggest around 900,000 social homes are occupied by immigrants. Do you think British taxpayers should be paying those higher taxes to fund subsidised housing for everyone in need, regardless of their origin? And finally, according to a briefing pack released to the National Archives, previously censored, Tony Blair considered building a secret bunker under Downing Street in case of a terror attack. It's not clear from the files why the government didn't proceed with the plan, but do you think the Prime Minister should have his own secret lair? Well, also tonight I'll be joined by my most pugnacious panel, the former Conservative MP for Woking, Sir John Redwood. About to say Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg then. That's not, this is, it is his show after all. Well, John Redwood is joining me, and also the former Labour writer Scarlett Maguire. As ever, let me know what you think. Go to gbnews.com/yoursay or scan the QR code on your screen right now to get involved in that conversation. But in the meantime, let's get to the latest headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening to you. Our headlines. Eurostar services between the UK and Europe have now resumed after a power outage caused severe disruption earlier. It resulted in numerous cancellations, leaving thousands of passengers stranded as they tried to get away for the new year. These passengers in St Pancras Station in London. Well, multiple services have now boarded, with the Channel Tunnel partially reopened, but Eurostar has urged passengers to postpone their journeys anyway and says trains that do run will be subject to severe delays and last-minute cancellations. There were also long waits for Le Shuttle, which carries road vehicles and passengers from Folkestone to Calais, and it also had a knock-on effect for those queuing to board ferries at the port of Dover. A man's been arrested after 5 people were assaulted in a hospital in Merseyside with what's thought to have been a crowbar. Officers were called to the community hospital in St Helens just after midday, where trouble broke out when the suspect was denied an appointment. Police say he's a 20-year-old man originally from Afghanistan. The victims of the assault were treated by paramedics at the hospital for injuries which were not life-threatening. The Conservatives have called for a full investigation into the government's decision to admit the British-Egyptian activist Alaa Abdel Fattah into the UK. It comes after social media posts emerge in which he called for Zionists to be killed. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has launched a review into serious information failures in his case and has described the tweets as abhorrent. Successive governments work to secure Mr Abdel Fattah's release. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick says it represents a failure of the British state.
You've got to ask searching questions about the civil servants, I'm afraid. That it isn't just information failures, as Yvette Cooper describes it. This is catastrophic mistakes where civil servants either didn't know the most basic things about a case that they were pushing in front of Prime Minister after Prime Minister after Prime Minister, or worse, they did, and they were either sympathetic to those views or it didn't suit their agenda, and so they wanted to brush them under the carpet. It's a completely disgraceful failure by the Foreign Office and the Home Office, and there needs to be a full investigation into that.
West Midlands Police has apologised to MPs for what they've described as confusion over the ban on Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters. It comes after they suggested members of the Jewish community in Birmingham expressed support for the ban on fans of the Israeli team attending a match against Aston Villa. But they now say there was no documented feedback to support that view. Birmingham City Council, meanwhile, has said it plans to commission an independent review into the decision, which was initially taken over security fears. Russia says it's deployed nuclear-capable missiles into active service in Belarus. Vladimir Putin claims the Oreshnik weapons can't be intercepted by air defences because they travel at more than 10 times the speed of sound. Belarus, an ally of Russia, also shares a border with NATO countries Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. And it looks like we'll be welcoming in the new year with snow, ice and colder weather. And the Met Office has issued a number of warnings for the coming days as Arctic air is set to grip the country. It is likely to affect northern Scotland first, but could also spread to Northern Ireland, England and Wales by the end of the week. The cold spell predicted to last for more than a week. There's your headlines. Now, it's back to Tom.
Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation. It's 5 minutes past 8. Now, what does it mean to be British? Is it where you were born? Where your parents were born? Where their parents were born? Is it what cricket team you support? Your ideological values? Your religion? Your language? Even your accent? Well, the left-leaning Institute for Public Policy Research has conducted polling with YouGov to find out what this country really thinks. And the findings may surprise you. Now, whilst a slim majority, 51% of voters, believe being British is something you can become rather than something you must be born with, this is not the headline finding of the poll today. No, the headline finding is that almost twice as many people in Britain think birthplace is a key part of British identity compared to 2 years ago. 36% of us now say that you can only truly be British if you were born in Britain. That compares to 19% found in 2023. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion what's driving this trend. 2023 is an interesting baseline year because we subsequently learned that net migration hit a record level of 906,000 people in the year ending June 2023. Could it be that high migration inversely correlates with the ease at which people believe that people should be able to become British? Sky-high migration and more voters say that no one should be able to become British beyond birthright. If we sprinkle out citizenships like confetti, we shouldn't be surprised if there's a backlash. And there's a deeply meaningful point as to why. Researchers, psephologists and statisticians like to deal in absolutes. What is Britishness? Black or white, yes or no? Well, I think Britishness might